Who has recently moved from the city to the country? This is a question I threw up on the grapevine last week. It had over 90 responses. I realised I had to do a podcast about this, so I asked some of you if I could speak with you, and here is the results, and you'll also hear the story as to why I asked this question. The Daylesford Podcast. Events, stories and people around the Hepburn Shire. It's Friday evening, supermarket. You know what that's like, everybody. Oh, God.
If you have a flight pass, please scan at any time.
Hey everyone, Jared here. Before we continue on this adventure around Daylesford, do me a favour, can you please hit the subscribe button if you're listening on YouTube, TuneIn, Spotify, Pocket Casts, even on the podcast app on your iPhone. Hit the subscribe button, and every time a new episode comes out, you'll get a notification. Now, back to the Crazy Coles car park. Was a trip to the supermarket on a Friday evening. You know what it's like on a Friday evening when you drive through Daylesford. Yeah, it's one of those. And I guess everyone who's local here, they know Friday lunchtime, mid-Friday afternoon, you start to step out of the town a little bit and let everyone else enjoy the town. That's a good way to put it. I like that people come. I love that people come to Daylesford. I've lived in towns where they're just dead and empty, and it's not an exciting environment. Everything's quite stagnant. I love this, but as we all know, it does get a bit frustrating. Anyway, there's a point to all this. My question is, as I drive along pondering, there's a van with a skull on it. Oh, it's Bromley. My question is, when people move to Daylesford from the city, what are the pros and cons? Because the other week, you would have heard my first, if you've heard my first podcast with Jeremy, as soon as I finished that interview with Jeremy, this two couple walked in, and they were quite, the girl was so colourful and bright and very fashionable, and he was just this dude wearing black, and they were clearly both artists and creatives, and they asked me a question, is life slower in Daylesford? So do you mind if I record this then? Is life slower in Daylesford? These guys are from Melbourne, and I'm trying to think of an answer. Why'd you ask that?
Obviously, life in Daylesford is slower, but...
Or is it more casual?
Is the purpose of coming to Daylesford for a lot of people to try and make their lives slower? But balance. Even so you try and do that, it doesn't actually end up happening. Is that one fearing is the problem? Is like you try and get out of the country, out of the city, and the pace to which you used to have doesn't actually...
So the pace, I can answer this, the pace around you slows down, all right? So there's not as many things as running around you, traffic, horns, people, whatever, So you've got a lot more space in your mind to be more creative.
I think there's something key to that fulcrum of city and country life. Like, I grew up in a mega regional, sketchy as hell, super bush jam.
Yeah.
And then living in the city. But perhaps it's your motivation. Perhaps like slowing down around you obviously makes a bunch of difference, but it depends on how driven of a person that you are to the rate that you're busting on the gas.
So this is where the conversation started, and this week I decided to hit the grapevine and see what I can find out. I put out this question: has anyone moved from the city to the country recently? And I did notice that many of you responded to this question, and I contacted some of you and went and asked people what was the positive things about moving from the city to the country, and also what was the negative things about moving to the country. The first couple you hear are Mel and Connie, and they're in their mid-50s. They're moving to Weedchief. They have a house there, and they're kind of half and half, and they're a little undecided decided whether to move to the area. And the second couple are Julia and Glenn, and they moved to Hepburn Springs a week and a half ago. And the third person I interviewed was Anthony, and Anthony's moved his whole family, 3 kids, wife and himself, from the city to Newland. And as you'll hear, it turns out the family wasn't as receptive to country life as Anthony had hoped for. But first, Mel and Connie. You guys are halfway between moving from... Where'd you say you're from again? Beaumaris to Wheatsheaf. You guys are thinking of coming from the city to the country. Connie, I want to start with you because I want to know what your thoughts are about the shifting, picking up, and if you had to come down here, how would you feel?
So I'm a beach person. I've always been into water, and I love the fact that I live near the water. But Malcolm's more of a sort of a country tree type person. So since we've been up here at part holiday house, part Airbnb, Malcolm's loving it and turned into this like country bumpkin type person.
Is that true, Mel?
It is true. My love for the country, I think, stems back from when we were in England, and my mum's cousin had a farm in Suffolk, and my mother's cousin would do very little. He sort of managed to lease out all his crops, so he had the money coming from that, and he just basically what we call tiffled. And that was my ideal in life, to be able to do what he does and just tiffle round a place. And here I've found the perfect spot to do exactly that.
So Mel, as you tiffle, Connie, what do you do when you're down here?
Well, depending on the weather.
Okay. It's pretty cold today. It snowed.
So when it's cool, I tend to be a bit housebound because I'm not a big fan of the cold. So I'll tend to lie around, mark on the couch, and go in a bit of shopping in Daylesford.
You mentioned before that there's a bit of hesitation coming down here, though. Do you want to expand on that a little bit more? Because I don't want this podcast to be all fluffy and Daylesford's great and blah, blah, blah. I want people to go, it's moving here is great, but this really annoyed me, or this and this. So let's be truthful here.
So my big issue is the isolation up here. I know we're pretty young, we're only in our mid-50s, and the idea of sort of being isolated out in Wheatsheaf when I'm older and I'm not that mobile scares the heck out of me. So I guess the only way it would work for me is if I had, say, an apartment down near the beach somewhere that I could sort of spend some time there and some time here. I couldn't do it full time, I don't think. I mean, Daylesford's beautiful. It's a great place to visit, but I'm not sure I'd want to live here.
Good answer. Yeah, I like that. You're truthful and honest. Yeah, that's what we need. Yeah. Mel, what's your reaction to this? Because I know that you have different thoughts on this. So I don't want to cause fights or anything. We'll open the discussion. We'll do therapy later.
No, there's no surprise. The fact that Connie was sort of open to it is sort of we're gradually making progress. So I think I've got a 5-year timeline to sort of gradually get a way of thinking a bit closer to mine. So,
how are you going to do that?
How are you going to do that?
Just gradually.
See, my ideal lifestyle is follow the sun. So once I've retired, I don't ever have to be cold again.
Why, thank you, Mel and Connie. Now, before I play the other two opinions of their adventures to Daylesford, let me tell you about the events this week. Friday the 19th of July, it is the start of the Castlemaine Doco Film Festival. Google that and find out what documentaries are playing for the next week. Also tonight, over in Woodend, they are playing a Monty Python doubleheader starting tonight at 6 p.m. at 15 Buckland Street. This Saturday, the 20th of July. All the markets this morning are at Creswick, Glenline, Leonards Hill and Trentham. Also this morning there is an author talk over at the Creswick Hub, and Kathy Burgum is speaking. This is her first book. There's no cost, there's no booking required, and the book is called Celebrate Your Gold Within. And tonight there is Christmas cheer in town. The Winter Sangha 2019, hosted by Le Yoga Daylesford. This is the 5th annual gathering in their little studio, and all you need to do is BYO drinks and a smaller plate to share, and a $10 gift to join in the Kris Kringle. Thanks, Le Yoga Daylesford. Sunday the 21st of July, it is the Daylesford Market, and it's also the Talbot Farmers Markets. Monday the 22nd of July, there's an intro to floristry at the Neighbourhood Centre. Tuesday the 23rd of July, there's intro to massage therapy basics at the Neighbourhood House. And finally, Thursday the 25th at the Daylesford Neighbourhood House, there's intro into Auslan, which you can find that on their website. If you have an event to share, please let me know at thedaylesfordpodcast.com. All community events are free. If you have a business event to share, you can see the rate card on the website. Now, back to the interviews. This is Glenn and Julie. They moved here a week and a half ago. Julie, they tell me that life's a bit slower in this country. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Traffic wise, it's a lot slower. There's no traffic lights and stuff to worry about, but yeah, so far we've found it a lot slower.
What is slower, and what's the hard parts about living in Daylesford also?
The hard part? Probably the thing I've noticed so far is not having as much variety in shops, supermarkets, things like that.
We've got one.
Yeah, there's one, but
Half of one, yeah, that's true.
well, the guy at the checkout said it's more like a milk bar. So, yeah, that's definitely the thing.
Do you reckon milk bars are that busy on a Friday evening?
Probably not. And finding a car park.
Oh, yeah, that's always a tough one. Oh, yeah. Glenn, what about for you? What's been the best part, but what's also been the hardest part?
Probably the hardest part has been further away. You always nick down the street, down to Bunnings. I know they've got the hardware here, but and away from friends, you're sort of an hour and a half from friends. So now we've got to plan things and visit family. So, but it's not too far away. It's it's not 3 hours. So
That's true.
Yeah.
Do you have to? So you've only literally been here a week and a half now. You've owned this for 3 years. Been here a week and a half. Do you know many people around here? And do you have any plans to? Do you know how country people meet each other?
Well, I joined the CFA on Sunday.
Excellent.
Yeah, because I spoke to him back in February when we had the fires, because the fires were 60 metres away from here. So that was always a plan to join the CFA up here. So as soon as we moved up there, I went down on Sunday and down to Hepburn and joined up. So I think that's the sort of best way of meeting people. Yeah.
And here is my last chat with Anthony, who brought his family from Melton to Newland. So you got 3 kids, is that right? How old are your kids?
18, 17 and 12.
So you moved from Melton, is that right? Yeah. A lot of people have moved from Melton. I don't know what's that about.
I've read that lately. Yes.
How has for you personally, tell me, how has the move been here, just for you?
I love it.
Was it your idea to come here?
Yes.
Yeah. Why?
The attraction of isolation. As I said, Melton has outgrown itself. It's very difficult. You go from one end of Melton to the other will take at least 45 minutes. Everyone's in a rush. Decided to come out here.
Wow. So you're happy out here. So you mentioned the other week, the family. It's been a struggle for the rest of the family, yeah? Yeah. In what ways?
My wife still works in Melton.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So, but look, she's comfortable enough. She does enjoy it when she's here. Doesn't enjoy the travelling, but she does enjoy it when she's here. The 3 girls, the oldest one, I would say, doesn't like it. The middle one she'll enjoy it. She just doesn't admit that she enjoys it. And the youngest one, who goes to school in Daylesford, yeah, she's enjoying it.
Were they apprehensive at first to come here? You had to kind of kicking and screaming. You came? Yeah.
Absolutely. I just think, look, someone asked me a while back, any regrets? And I said, yeah, didn't do it earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It would have been good to get the older girls here earlier.
Yeah. Thank you, Anthony, and thanks for listening, everyone. Don't forget you can subscribe on Instagram or Facebook. A huge thanks to Laura Jane Rose for her help for finding the events for me. If you had an event, let me know. Community events are free. Any other event, business events, you can find the rate cards via my website. And until next week, don't forget to hit subscribe on YouTube or any other platform you're listening to, and I'll talk to you then. Bye!